Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for January 23rd. We got a 5-game slate on tap. Think it is a fun one. There's a few injuries that we need to talk about and kind of discuss how it will break down. Now, before we get into it, come join us at LionStar. $39.99 a month. Gets you access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS, everything. Now let's get into it. Let's have some fun. Yesterday's slate was a interesting one for me. I got 11th in the big FanDuel GPP, but that was like my only lineup that really separated. So it was kind of interesting. Glad that the right pieces fell in there. I had the right pieces through a lot of my lineups, but only one of them kind of had it all together. Now let's get into this slate. I think it's an interesting one. I am right now fairly heavy on the chalk, so hopefully things change throughout the day where I'm able to get off some. But right now, how it looks, I do like a lot of the chalk, so I'm really going to be focused on getting, a couple lower owned pieces into every lineup. So I can still play some of this chalk because I think a lot of it is pretty good today. All right. Starting it off, point guard on FanDuel, D'Angelo Russell, 33% owned. TJ McConnell, 27% owned. I think both these could be much higher owned than we are seeing right now. Third, we got James Harden at 25% and SGA at 24%. All the options are pretty good. D'Angelo Russell, I don't mind. However, the Clippers are very good versus point guard. So even with LeBron, out, I don't necessarily love this spot for Russell being this high owned. Now, he could absolutely blow out this price with no LeBron, but I'm going to lean into the Clippers just being good a point guard and probably get away from Russell a little bit tonight. TJ McConnell. With TJ, you also got to talk about Andrew Nembhard. Tyrese Halliburton is out. That's the big news for the Pacers. And with that, either McConnell or Nembhard are going to play a ton of minutes. Nembhard is questionable. Now, Nembhard's out. We could see a lot of minutes from McConnell. And I think at 5,200, you got to kind of like him. Even if he comes on off the bench, he probably gets, 22, 23 minutes. And at the rate of fantasy per minute that he's been playing with Tyrese Halliburton out, it's right around 1.3 fantasy per minute. At that rate, he could get it. Now, I do think 1.3 fantasy per minute for him is way higher than he really is or really should be. But I got to have some consideration for McConnell in this spot, especially if Nembhard is out, as he's just going to play more minutes. Now, so fantasy points per minute isn't going to be 1.3. I think probably more like 1.15. But he's at least within consideration. One of the things I will say, though, is I don't really want to play Nembhard and McConnell in the lineups together. It's going to be one or the other. James Harden, I really like this spot for Harden today. He's been living right around that 40, 50 fantasy point mark, 8.2K. I'm willing to go back. Lakers aren't great versus point guard, and I like this spot quite a bit. I also do like SGA. My worry with SGA is that the Trailblazers are going to need to make a push for him to really have his, ceiling upside. And this Trailblazers team just is not very good. The Thunder are huge favorites. So one of the ways that I do want to play SGA is I want to make sure I have maybe a little bit of a game stack here, hoping that this game goes, a little closer to planned. And then that way I can get the upside of SGA as well as one of the Thunder players that maybe comes with him. So while I don't really like many Thunder players today, I think there are a couple you can choose from that have the ceiling to kind of get it done. So that's my thing with SGA is I do like him, but I really want to bring a Trailblazer player with him if I'm playing him. Andrew Nembhard we talked about. Spencer Dinwiddie. I think with the Knicks situation is you really want to attack with the guards, especially without Quickly now for the Knicks. And I don't mind Dinwiddie's price. You know, his scoring is very inconsistent, but his rebounds, assists are kind of always there. And so if he can have a decent scoring night, he can definitely hit 6x. And we know he has games where he's in the 40s or 50s. So I don't mind taking some shots at a lower owned Dinwiddie today. He is definitely one of the lower owned pieces I will be looking to put into lineups. All right, on to DraftKings. D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, SGA. We talked about two of them. Let's go into Reeves. Reeves at 5,800 on DraftKings is just way too cheap. Also multiple positional eligible. I think he also gets a bigger bump than anybody else on this team with LeBron out. So I really do like Reeves, especially on DraftKings today, and we'll be getting a decent amount of them. On to the matchup tool. Chris Dunn is at the top of it. Let's go to points per minute. I like that a little bit better. Chris Dunn, SGA, and Harden are the three at the top. I really do like Harden. I really do like SGA. My issue with SGA is just the blowout issues, and that's why I want to try and attach maybe a Trailblazers piece to him to get him to my lineups. I think that's the way he is optimal, is if somebody else comes with him on the other side. I don't mind McCollum either, just don't totally love him. Now, into shooting guard. So, high-owned guys, we got Paul George, Austin Reeves, and D'Angelo Russell. Paul George, I think, is in a really good spot. I actually think Harden, George, and Leonard are all in very good spots. The one thing I will say with that Clipper team, I don't want all three of them together. I don't mind playing three Clippers from the same team, but I just don't want those three. I think they all need too much usage to all get there. And if they all do get there, it's going to be a Reeves or a Russell or AD that have huge games to allow all of them to get there. But I just don't think that's likely. And so I'm kind of trying to do only two of the three in a lineup. And in that case, having one of these Lakers guys coming back is probably the way to do it as well. James Harden, we talked about. Benedict Mathurin, I think he's going a little bit under owned. Now, the issue here is his minutes are all over the place. Maybe it's because they're trying to show Buddy Hield out a little bit because he is now on the trading block. But I think Mathurin is in a very good spot this game. His usage goes way up without Halliburton. If he can get some extra minutes, if he can play, his 27, 28 minutes, I think he's in a really, really good spot, and I don't mind his price. Somebody's going to have to do the scoring here to keep the Pacers in this game, and I think Benedict definitely could be that guy. Just a little scary because of his minutes. Nembhard, we talked about. Mikal Bridges is a guy that I'm interested in. This game, while it is a slower paced game, I do have some intrigue about, and we know Bridges has a big time upside. He is one of those guys that I do kind of look at more for GPPs because he's either 30 points, which is not letting you cash, or he's mid 40s or 50s, which is helping you win a tournament. So I don't mind going over these guys. I think it's a decent spot. And that's one of the spots I would be attacking with the Nets is through the guards. And let's go over to shooting guard on DraftKings. Austin Reeves, Colin Sexton, Anthony Simons. I don't mind Sexton. His price is okay. He's getting the minutes. Chris Dunn is questionable. He's been crushing lately. And And honestly, somebody for this Jazz team has to step up for them to stay in the game. It's only a 7-point underdog, so, Vegas doesn't think the Pelicans are running away with it. Simons, I don't mind. He's definitely a piece that could keep the Trailblazers in this game, so I don't mind kind of attaching him to an SGA. And matchup tool, Reeves at the very top of it. Giddey is right there. I do really like Giddey too. It's just so hard to project him minute-wise. We have him at 25 right now. He's either 22, 25, or 30. No idea what he's going to be on any given night, and that is the issue with him. But he does have big, high ceilings. So having him in some lineups is totally fine to me, as well as Sexton. And on a small forward, we got Rui Hachimura, Paul George, Austin Reeves. Just say Kawhi Leonard too, because he's over 30% owned. I like all of them. Hachimura should get usage bump, a minutes bump without LBJ. Those are the games that, we're seeing him put up 30 without LBJ, and he can totally do it in this spot. Kawhi Leonard, we talked about him a little bit also. I like him. I think all those 3 Clippers are in stud spots. Just only trying to play 2 of 3 max in a lineup, not going to all of them. Benedict, we talk about Mikal Bridges, and on to small forward on DraftKings. Rui Hachimura coming in at 40%, Jalen Williams 30%, then a big drop off after that. Taurean Prince, he's super cheap on DraftKings at $3,800, so I think you consider him there. He is not in consideration in my FanDuel pool. Hart at $4,500 is also in consideration. That's too cheap for a guy. They are likely missing Hartenstein, and we have seen a big beneficiary in some rebounding output with those centers being hurt, even though he is, more of a wing player. I do think there is a chance that Randall plays more center, and if that is the case, it could open up minutes for a guy like Josh Hart. So taking some swings on DraftKings is totally fine. Matchup wise, Cameron Johnson, Lou Dort, and Jeremy Grant are popping up. Grant is another possible option for a guy to pair with SGA. And power forward wise, Rui Hachimura, Zion Williamson, Kawhi Leonard are the high-owned guys. I think Zion is in a very good spot versus this Utah team. They have been giving it up to power forwards, 21st overall to power forwards in fantasy point scoring, and it's a pace-up spot. So those are the spots that you like Zion. Zion does need to get out and run a little bit, even though he's fat. He should probably run a little after games a little more too. Another pivot I like Aaron Gordon. One of the things is this is a huge pace up spot for the Nuggets. Pacers play super fast, and while they do play a little bit slower with Halliburton, without Halliburton, I still do like the spot. And one of the things with this Nuggets team that I am interested in is I'm interested in, say, KCP, Gordon, or Jokic. But more so Gordon and KCP. I think those guys that can add a lot of ancillary stats or hit threes in transition opportunities are the ways to really go in this spot versus the Pacers. So I think Gordon is interesting. He's also a guy that we know has that ceiling if he gets it going. While his medium output isn't what we want, he does have those big games, and if he can put one of those together, that would help you at low ownership. So definitely intrigued by him on lower ownership play-wise. Power forward on DraftKings, Jalen Williams, Rui Hachimura, and Julius Randle. So Randle is a spot I'm interested in. The reason being is I think he could slide over to center a little bit more. Last game, he had 16 rebounds. Definitely played a little more center as Toronto was out also without their big men. So don't mind going that way. Also, Zion is too cheap on DK. Matchup wise, Aaron Gordon, Zion Williamson, Jabari Walker. Walker is another spot you could go if you want to bring a Trailblazer with a couple of your Thunder guys. And on to center. Highest owned, we got Jericho Sims. Look, he's only 3,600, so I get it. I don't personally love it. He is just a guy that when he starts, he's getting 18, 20 minutes, and that's not going to get it done. If he lucks into 24 minutes because he's playing well, maybe he gets you there, but I just don't think it's very likely. I do like Chet Holmgren quite a bit, but once again, at least his price is a little cheaper. I think he could get there in a big blowout. But I wouldn't mind taking a Trailblazers. We need this game to stay close into, the late third, early fourth quarter for these Thunders players to get all their minutes. In that case, we could really see some ceiling points. Mason Plumlee is an interesting spot to me versus this Lakers team. I think they need him for his defense against AD, and his minutes are kind of all over the place. Played 28 and then came out and played 15. If it is back to the 28 game, he absolutely has the ability to crush this minutes. We have him at like 23 minutes right now. I think you kind of got to put him in that 24, 23 minute area. Really not totally sure what the Clippers are going to do here. But if he happens to get in that 28, I really like the spot for Plumlee. And he's a guy I could absolutely pair with two of those stars Clippers. And on to DK at center, Julius Randle, Christian Wood, Mason Plumlee are the high-owned. Christian Wood is just too cheap at 3,400. He should get some extra minutes. But even if he only gets 18, he can produce at this price there. So don't hate going there. And matchup-wise, Holmgren's at the top, Jokic is there, and then Sims. I do really like Jokic today. There is some value. He's going to be easier to fit on DraftKings than on FanDuel. FanDuel is just a little more expensive, but I think there's so many paths to him really getting there tonight that he definitely is one of the guys I want to put in. AD has a tough matchup, but is also getting a boost from LBJ being out, and am definitely intrigued. However, I'm just not getting to it much. I think I would rather pay up with Jokic than AD tonight. All right, guys, that will do it for us tonight. Please come join us at Lion Star and drop a like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube. It helps us a ton. Adios.